All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on episode 163 of Blowback, Exposing Imperial Decline. I am one of your hosts, Billy Bob. I am on the West Coast. It's morning for me, 9 a.m. But for my co-host in Washington, D.C., Carlo Parcelli, it is noon. And then our special guest is Dust James, and he is streaming live from, I want to say, North Carolina.
Yes, you got it right this time.
Uh, and he's busy driving his truck, and so he can hear us. So we're gonna have a great discussion with Dust. We also have Ian Cummer. He just popped into the studio, and oh, here he is. So hopefully, he's not gonna have too many technical problems. He should be here shortly. So he is streaming live from Moscow, a suburb in Moscow. But our topic for the day is the Martyrdom of Charlie Kirk, and that's the title of today's episode. But I wanted to kind of contextualize the murder of Charlie Kirk with kind of, the bigger geopolitical picture and kind of, how they're trying to use this murder, to benefit their interest. And by them, of course, I'm referring to the oligarchs, the ruling class, the capitalist class, the empire, the Western imperialists. Okay. So, obviously, as I say every show, there's this big geopolitical upheaval taking place where the West feels threatened by a rising China, rising Russia, and they really don't have a lot of cards to play. And so they're trying to figure out a strategy to maintain their, current amount of global hegemony, to maintain their empire. And, it's tough because it seems like their decline is inevitable, and they're trying to do whatever they can to stop that. So I think that we are at kind of the very beginning of what history will see as a really big effort, to take out Russia, take out China, take out Iran, Venezuela, and to really secure the planet, for the rest of the century, for the interests of the Western oligarchs. And we haven't really seen that take off yet. But there's two things that are going to be happening. We're going to see a huge escalation around the planet with, a hot war of some kind, probably a proxy war against China. And we're going to see a full-on economic embargo. We're going to see the interdiction of shipping lanes with our military, and with the military probably of Japan, South Korea, the Philippines. This is the wettest dream of the Western ruling class. And who's that guy? He's third in the Pentagon. He's the big China hawk. He's the third in charge of the Pentagon, and he's the big brain behind the containment of China policy. His name is escaping me. It'll come to me shortly. But commensurate with this, is that the right word? Commensurate with this strategy of, China containment, it will be a shift at home, of the cultural hegemony. And so we're going to see, I think, more repression, less tolerance for dissent, and kind of a crackdown, probably, of views that run counter to, the official narratives. And so I think we're going to see some media consolidation. We already are. We're seeing TikTok being bought out by pro-Zionist, private interests, of course, that are aligned with the Trump administration. And I think we're going to see that in other, big corporate media. So I know, I think Larry Ellison is going to be purchasing, a big media conglomerate. And so I think what we can see taking place is, the shaping of the domestic information battlefield, in preparation for a greater escalation on the global stage, where the U.S. is going to be involved in some serious and significant fighting, trying to again, just weaken the threats to their hegemony and to maintain their hegemony. So, how does Charlie Kirk play? What role does Charlie Kirk play in this? It seems that he's kind of being a catalyst for this, for the shaping of the information battlefield domestically. So he's a catalyst, and they're seizing on this opportunity to implement some of these things where they're going to be less tolerant of dissent. And so I think recently Trump just signed a law, declaring Antifa a terrorist organization, right? And so that'll make it easier to go after voices who are, and protesters too, voices and protesters who aren't going to be happy about some of the stuff that's going to be going on in the future. So that's kind of my broad take on the situation. I know everybody has opinions and share. So I just thought I'd open up with that. Okay, one last thing I wanted to do was to play this short clip, kind of. I don't know. It illustrates a little bit of what I'm talking about in a certain way. So let me try and share my screen. See how this goes. And then it's a short, like maybe less than 2 minutes. I believe this clip is less than 2 minutes. So let me share this. And then, okay, so try and see if we can hear yeah, it's only a minute long. So Stephen Miller, great American Stephen Miller. Let's see what he has to say here.
The dark. The light will defeat the dark. We will prevail over the forces of wickedness and evil. They imagine what they have awakened. They cannot conceive of the army that they have arisen from all of us. We what is virtuous, what is noble. And to those trying to incite violence against us, those trying to foment hatred against us, what do you have? You have nothing. You are nothing. You are wickedness. You are jealousy. You are envy. You are hatred. You are nothing. You can build nothing. You can produce nothing. You can create nothing. We are the ones who build. We are the ones who create. We are the ones who lift up humanity. The light will defeat the dark.
Let me.
We will prevail.
Let me stop
over the
sharing
forces
that
of wickedness.
Somehow. Anyway, okay, stop sharing. So, I thought Stephen Miller did a good job, just illustrating, the culture war and the entrenchment. I think, it's interesting because I think kind of that is the epitome of what both sides really feel about the other in the culture war. And that's not to say that one side is correct and the other is wrong. It's just to say that, this is definitely being stage managed because it benefits Stephen Miller and his group of ghouls who actually run things and own everything. So, he wants this to happen. And so he's really, whipping up, stirring the pot, creating this cultural war frenzy. But who wants to jump in really quick and give their 2 cents?
I will.
Okay, go ahead, Kirk.
Okay. Very about Marion. The first thing that occurred to me when I heard Miller was several speeches I remember Goebbels giving in the 1930s. And I wasn't alone in that assessment. As I went looking around on the net, hundreds of other people made that connection. And I think it's very frightening because, as you know, last time, I don't believe in a culture war because there's not 2 sides to this. And it's much like in Nazi Germany, where it can easily victimize people like Billy Bob, for example, because one of the major groups that they're going to go after are the communists. And so Billy Bob's life is in jeopardy. I think that you will see state-sponsored murder taking place under the Trump regime, because Trump is helpless. Trump is nothing. Miller wants to talk about nothing. Trump is owned by the Israeli lobby, and is so frightened of having his baby fucking, his child fucking under Epstein exposed, that he'll do pretty much anything that the Mossad tells him to do, and that would include the extraordinary rendition and killing, if not just incarcerating, of many U.S. citizens, and if that's a war, then you'd have to call what happened in Argentina a war. What happened in extraordinary rendition cases all around the globe. You can go back to Brazil in 65, 66. And so where the people who were incarcerated, disappeared, had no recourse. Chile, Pinochet. I can go on and on. So I want to reemphasize, this is not a war, because I know I'm not equipped to fight a war. I don't know if any of you are. I don't know what kind of weapons you own, but it's a very dire circumstance and I think Miller laid out what they intend to do, and I think it already involves murder domestically in this country, and that will only increase. I think we're in for some very dark times. That's my take on it.
So, can I go ahead, Ian? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, well, we need to hear from the guest too, but I'll just say, I mean, I know the comparisons to Nazi Germany are popular. I remember Bush was just like Hitler. Obama was just like Hitler. Trump was just like Hitler. Biden was just like Hitler. And then Trump again was just like Hitler. I think the main issue with that comparison is that Germany was in a different place than the USA is today. Because Germany, after World War I and during the Great Depression, was an impoverished and broken and humiliated country and nation. They had people on the other side of the borders controlled by other states. They were forcibly demilitarized. They were paying reparations, which were huge, because the war debt for everybody was huge. They said, well, just have the losers pay it. So Germany was going to be militant. I think that was inevitable, because they didn't break Germany enough, but broke Germany too much, if that makes sense. I mean, they were going to want payback. It was just a question of how extreme Germany was going to be. I think that's kind of not even a controversial statement now. It's just like, Germany's going to come back. It's a question of just how extreme they were going to come back, and as it turns out, it was very extreme. With the USA, it's a bit different, because it's a hegemony. It's the Pax Americana, as Americans, themselves like to say, oh, well, it's Pax Americana, so it's kind of like this feeling of being on top of the world, and the only way to go is down from there, as other countries become stronger relative to the USA, as the USA's position itself weakens for various reasons. Now, that said, I remember a colleague here in Moscow asked me, he's like, because everybody, especially like when it was when the Civil War movie came out, that silly Civil War movie came out, and he asked me, what do you think of? You think that's going to happen? And I said, no, I know that's a popular opinion among American expats in Russia, but expats aren't the best source of information, mainly because if expats were happy in the USA, we'd still be in the USA. And that was about 2 years ago, I guess. And now I'm not so sure. Now I think we are, like Carlo was suggesting, we are in that kind of situation. I think we're in a very similar spot as Yugoslavia in the 1990s, and Ukraine even in 2012, where you have the population, like Billy Bob said, so polarized. Just say and it's not even who's right or wrong statement. It's just, it's so polarized. If you can't have a president or a majority in the legislature without somebody on either side feeling that they're under the boot now. So it's I just don't know what else to say, except I think the only options now is that one side very, very clearly wins, which right now, the Trump movement is, they have an edge because they're actually in power. I wouldn't say it's definitively they would win, but they have an edge. But I think that's, somebody's going to win, or the country just fragments if there's no clear winner. So that's my 2 cents. I think we shouldn't ignore our guest too much. I don't know if he's driving now, but that's what I have to say on it.
Dust, what are your thoughts, sir? I'm pretty sure he muted him. Oh,
Yes, I muted myself. I just had to check in. Yes, I'm pleasantly surprised by all the contributions so far. I think there's a bit of truth in everything that's been said so far. My personal analysis is, a worker within the international proletariat in America. I think we got to be clear who Charlie Kirk was. I don't, contrary to what Billy Bob has said, I don't think he was a cultural warrior making a culture war to divide. I think he was a fascist propagandist. And when I mean he was a fascist propagandist, he was paid millions of dollars by the most imperialistic, by the most reactionary members of monopoly capital. And what he was paid.
Why those are mutually exclusive? To me, those are synonymous things.
I'm directly quoting 2 factors of oh man, it's a long day, of a certain definition of fascism from Dimitrov, which includes the most imperialistic and the most reactionary. That's part of the Dimitrov's definition of fascism.
Warrior. How is being a fascist
because the proletariat is against fascism. The cause of the proletariat, we are on the side against the fascists. That's my position. We are on the side of Black liberation, of Chicano liberation, and Charlie Kirk was an enemy propagandist against the international proletariat. That's my difference. I'm firmly on the side of Black liberation, of Chicano liberation, of immigrants' rights, and of the cause of the international proletariat in the United States. An attack on any workers, an attack on all workers. And Charlie Kirk was a fascist propagandist. Charlie Kirk said that Trayvon Martin, a black child, deserved to die because he was, quote, hunting down a racist vigilant who murdered him. He said that George Floyd deserved to die. He said that Martin Luther King wasn't a good person. He said Martin Luther King, he said the Civil Rights Act went too far. He said the Civil Rights Act was a bad thing.
Can I clarify
Charlie
something?
Kirk.
Let me clarify something, Dust. No, and I mean, yeah, what you're saying, I don't disagree with. I'm trying to figure out how our 2 perspectives are different. And what I'm thinking is, most people aren't fighting a class war, right? So you're fighting a class war. You see Charlie Kirk is on the other side of the class war. I get that. And so do I, of course. Now, most people aren't fighting a class war. Most Americans are fighting a culture war. Most Americans, and so that leads to me describing Charlie Kirk as a culture warrior, whipping up the culture war, getting the culture war heated up, escalating the culture war, and getting everybody, really riled up to fight the culture war like that. He was a propagandist doing that, and he was also exactly what you said, right? But it's like two different perspectives. Most people aren't fighting a class war. You're fighting a class war. You see Charlie Kirk as being on the other side of the class struggle, as of course he is. But it's not just Charlie Kirk that's on the other side of the class war. It's all the liberals too. They're on the wrong side of the class war. They're our enemies in the class war because, they're pushing a culture war just like Charlie Kirk was pushing a culture war. So it's just interesting. I mean, because I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm asking you, what is the distinction between him being, a fighter in the culture war and also a fascist? To me, he's both. And then you're I don't explain the answer to that. You're saying because you're on the side of the proletariat. Yeah, because you're fighting. But anyway, I'm just trying to figure out, our different perspectives and how we're talking about the issue and how it's different. But it's interesting to me. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think the liberals are pushing a culture war. I think they're trying to cover themselves in the aesthetics of the correct side, which is Black liberation. Their co-optation of our movements isn't pushing a co-op war, isn't pushing a culture war. It is co-opting our just struggle that is aligned with the struggle of the proletariat.
I'm not sure. So I think that the Democrats are owned by the exact same people that own the Republicans. And
yes, and they're co-opting a just struggle. They're not pushing culture war. It's the Charlie Kirk is a reactionary, and we've actually made positive cultural progress and in ways of gay rights, gay acceptance, trans rights, trans acceptance. All of these have been good things that the reactionaries are using to push back against, to oppress the entirety of the working class. I don't think the liberals are waging a culture war. I think they're co-opting our just struggles for social progress, which aligns with the cause of the proletariat.
So what are the liberals? What is the objective of the liberals?
To co-opt and suppress and silence and stop those fighting for progress joining with the cause of the proletariat, which is the only cause that can actually produce positive social change. Yeah, the capitalism is incapable, so they're co-opting just struggles. They're not pushing.
They're not the same end that the fascists are pushing.
They're not.
Right?
They're not the ones dividing us. Racism is dividing us. Homophobia is dividing us. Sexism is dividing us. It's not the liberals who are echoing the sentiments of these just struggles.
Well, that's confusing to me.
I think there's a point here I do need to push back on, and I'll say this isn't the first I've heard this. I've had this for several years now with Russia, actually, because I'll write and I'll talk about Russian journalists being targeted and killed, and I'll get I have a very let's say a very lively comment section, and it have to be. I mean, I get right-wing guys, I get these neocon guys, but it's mostly liberal or left-leaning, if you will, people who say this. They say, oh, well, Russian journalists are pushing a war. They're enemy propagandists. It's okay to kill them. Now, I was saying that, well, if you say, well, okay, well, no. You can't kill someone for their opinion. You can't kill a non-combatant for their opinion. As much as I did not, when he was alive, I did not have
nobody.
Nice things.
I never said that people should be killed. Nor
well, yes, you did.
I didn't say any of it.
You said that enemy propagandists.
Yes, what enemy propagandists. Did I say that that it was in the correct strategy of proletarian organizers to kill Charlie Kirk? No, I did not. I don't. I know what the official story said. Who killed them? I'm not fully sure who killed them or why they killed him. My estimate, it was a fascist right-winger who was radicalized online who killed him. I think it was Blowback that killed him. It was part of the violence and the political climate and the frenzy that he put out there, that he promoted, that killed him. I'm not justifying his death. whatsoever. But the reality of the situation, he was a fascist propagandist who was paid by monopoly capital to not start a culture war, as Billy Bob was saying, but to reinforce the political violence against black people, against immigrants, against LGBT, real violence, police killings, mass killings on the border, mass deportations, all this violence. He was there in the mouthpiece to justify and continue. He was an enemy
Well,
propagandist, a
fine.
fascist.
Yeah.
That's fine, Doug. My point is that
That's what I'm saying. The murder has started. Go ahead, Ian. Finish your thought.
I'm just saying if it's a war, you can't guarantee your side will win a war. And if you want to war, you can't be upset if you lose the war. That's my
There's a war being waged against us, whether we declared a war or not. That does not mean we should take on aventuristic tactics. We need to organize and build power for our class to be able to fight back against the war that's already being waged against us.
Dust, you have never seen a war. You have no idea. You have no idea. I mean, this isn't something you're going to
I've been an
want.
organizer. I think the biggest
That's
thing we
not
have
the
now
same
is the
thing
labor
being in a
movement.
war. Oh my God! Have you ever been outside the USA? Have you
Class
seen
war.
an
I don't
actual
have to
country
be.
that have a
I
war?
don't have to be in a physical military war to understand what class war is. Class war is engaged with far more than weapons. It's engaged with propagandists, racist propagandists like Charlie Kirk. It's waged with lawfare. It's waged with suppression of unions. It's waged with the suppression of our speech. Like, there's multiple ways they're carrying out this war against us.
So we've got multiple conversations going here. I have a lot of questions for Dust because I need to. I mean, I don't have clarity on his position. I don't know what he means when he says liberals aren't engaged in a class or in a culture war. Like, to me, I just don't know why you would say that, and I'm interested in interrogating you and figuring out exactly where you're coming from, because I don't get it. But and then Ian, as you kind of making the point, what kind of point are you making, Ian? I'm trying to follow. Like, I mean,
Well,
so yeah,
I mean,
we're not saying that Charlie Kirk should have been killed. We're not supporting that. But I mean, from our perspective as people fighting a class war, he's definitely on the other side of the class war. He is a propagandist in working for the ruling class, and they're interested in maintaining power and subverting democracy and not letting the people, have democracy. I mean, that's what they're interested in doing. And Charlie Kirk is a propagandist in that effort, and he's dividing the working class by whipping up a culture war. But there's liberals that do the exact same thing. And so I'm just confused why Dust doesn't see things like that. Go ahead, Carlo.
Carlo, you're muted. We can't hear you.
We can
How come
drop
we can't
all
hear
of
you,
that.
Carlo?
Oh,
That's
you
better.
can't hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
Wait a minute.
Go ahead, Carlo.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Look, war's a metaphor here.
Yeah.
There's no war going on. Now, we did
Right.
have someone who wrote in and said, we talk about Hitler too much. No, we don't. With all due respect, with Ian's talk about Weimar Germany and after World War I, that's all valid. But we have our own things going on like that. We have people are
Now,
being
what happened?
dislocated. Up. We have racism and the bigotry. Is it too loud now? And the
That's
race.
okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
The racism and the bigotry. You have the denial of what the facts that are right before you. There have been 6,000 violent shootings, mass shootings in the United States in the last 5 years. Do you know how many trans people have been involved in those 6,000 shootings? 4. So when Miller gets on the stage and quotes Goebbels, we're in for it, because that's the kind of disinformation. That stadium was filled with ninnies, the American fools. Now, I spent a lot of time. I didn't know who Kirk was until he was shot, basically. But I watched a number of. He went to Cambridge, and he tried to debate basically Cambridge students there, and his debating tactics were just so debased and ignorant that it was astonishing to me how he had a following. Then I remembered it's among the American ninnies. He has a following. They don't know shit from Shinola. So he's arguing with this student, and the student and Charlie and what does Kirk wants to go? Well, do you believe in the Taliban of nature of nature of existence or whatever, or do you believe in the Western nature? And I thought, here's my epistemological argument again, and it's no, and of course you can't believe in the Taliban's version of things. If you know anything, and they know it at Cambridge, that there's been linguists and anthropologists like Ed Sapir and Benjamin Wharf that have pointed out that you can't understand what many American Indian languages are telling you, because their epistemology, the way they can know the world, is entirely different from the way a stupid idiot like Kirk knew the world.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, I want to make one more. I want to finish my thought. That is, I exist in the same epistemology, roughly, that Kirk does. So I can address that. And I can tell, as Dust would back me up, is Kirk was pure evil. And I am not. That's a distinction I want to make. And if you can't parse that, you have no business being on the fucking planet. Go away. Go to Mars with Musk, please, as quickly as possible.
Well, I agree with you, but who cares? Who cares what your opinion is on it? Who cares what my opinion is on that?
No one cares what my opinion is.
Right.
Of
And
course not.
So the question becomes, when you have people on the other side that are in that stadium plotting Steve, whatever that guy's name was, I forget his name, Stephen Miller. That's the reality that we have to contend with. That there's people on the other side that think everything that we think about them, about us. And so it's like, well, how do you deal with that? That's, without just bloodshed, right?
Well, here's my question for the floor here. So, here's the thing. Charlie Kirk, as much as I have to say he is not in that. We can bring up the world, we can bring up other countries, but in U.S. politics, in American politics, Charlie Kirk was not some far-right extremist. He was very, there's, as far as, as a percentage of the population that agrees with him, he's not far-right, not even close. I'm not even sure he's a national. I don't think it's even correct to call him a nationalist. In the definition of what a nationalist actually is. Wasn't really a nationalist. So my question here is, do we want to avoid political violence, or do we want to have it? Because here's the problem: if we go to the large scale political violence, for one, it's not fun. I think both sides overestimate how well they would do if it came to that. But the other problem is you can't put that genie back in the bottle. I don't think Donbass and Ukraine, even if that was agreed upon in negotiations, I just think at this point there are too many deaths. They can't ever be one country again. They just can't. At least not for a generation. They can't. If we get this, we're going to kill the fascists, or we're going to kill the commies, we're going to kill, the bad other side. Once that starts, well, you can't put that genie back in the bottle, and there's not a peace at that point. There's no peaceful resolution. So that's just my.
Well,
But
yeah,
there's only
we're a
one
long
side
way
doing
away
the
from
killing.
political violence. I haven't seen any. Of
Yeah.
course, there's been random shootings and things like that, active shooters, school shooters. That guy that was in Las Vegas, he was the most prolific shooter in the history of the known universe, opened fire on a country music concert, from his apartment in Las Vegas. So there's, this is nothing new. What's new is, I think, is that this is going to be seized upon, to further tighten the screws on discourse and on censorship and on the Overton window of what is acceptable as far as political speech. And that's going to be, shrinking considerably as the United States really starts to deal with these global challenges. And so I don't really see a civil war. I don't see political violence in the short term. I see more suppression of free speech, more suppression of dissenting viewpoints, being opportunistically, done because of, this event. But I think we're jumping the shark a little bit to start talking about, an impending culture war getting violent.
That's why I said at the beginning that, there are two ways this was going to play out. And one of those ways that's going to play is one side very clearly dominates the other side, and that's suppression, where they use the force of the law, when they use the military and the police and all of that to very clearly create a hegemony, and that's unbreakable. That's one outcome. And if they fail to do that, then that's when political violence tends to happen, when neither side has that kind of advantage. Now, that's also assuming that the people who, okay, I'm going to add Dust. Dust came back. Now, assuming that hegemony is successful, assumes the other side won't fight it either. Now, is the other side going to take that sitting down? Going to take an enemy hegemony using force? Because let's be honest, ICE and all those guys, they are National Guard. They are using force. So I'm not going to pretend they're not using force. Is the other side going to take that sitting down? And like you said, the Overton window is already there. It's like look at Ukraine. So 2012, the European Union pulled the rug out from under them, saying you can't have a trade union with us and with Russia simultaneously. The president there were riots. The president was exiled. There was small scale shootings and political violence, and then it came to war. That happens in the span of a few months. I don't think in 2012 anybody say, well, in a year there will be people being burned alive in buildings, and then a couple months after that there's going to be actual open warfare.
I don't know. I just don't see any similarities in these comparisons. Like, it's an apples and orange comparison. Like, Ukraine was being organized by a much more powerful group of people with a lot more resources, and that you just don't have that in our situation. You just have two competing oligarchs. You have like a interclass war between oligarchs, and it goes back and forth between a liberal and more fascisty. This is how the ruling class operates, and they go back and forth between being more liberal and more fascisty, and to suit their purposes and to further their own interests. So right now we're going to see it trending towards more fascisty. That's just and the liberals, the oligarchs who are liberals, like the big media moguls who prefer a more liberal and free speech and anti-Trump kind of voice, they're going to be marginalized. They're going to be disciplined by the other oligarchs. So that's what is going to be taking place. We're going to just we're sliding into a more fascisty paradigm. Dust, I'm so sorry.
Yes. Yeah, my internet's bad in here. There's a few falsehoods I'd like to disagree with Eon on. And the first one is Charlie Kirk was a reactionary extremist. The majority of Americans do not think Martin Luther King was a bad guy. The majority of Americans do not think 10-year-olds should be forced to carry out pregnancies to term. The majority of Americans do not think Trayvon Martin deserved to die. He was a reactionary extremist paid by the most reactionary portions of finance capital. Like, That's the first thing. I think next up, I am not advocating escalation of the class war. I am not pushing for us to enter into violent tactics. What I'm saying is there is a violent war already being waged against our class in the form of kidnapping of our fellow workers for the raids on undocumented workers, through the police killings of black, brown workers and poor workers generally, through anti-unionism, through shutting down basic journalism, through Common Core and manipulation of our school systems. There's a war already being waged against us with violent tactics. I'm always under the impression we need to organize independent power to fight against it. Recognizing Kurt as an enemy is not advocating that he be killed. And the other thing is, on the culture war, I don't think that the so-called liberals are pushing a culture war. They are taking the very de-economized versions of just struggles. The struggle for black liberation, the struggle for Chicano liberation, the struggle of immigrants, the struggle of LGBTQ people. They're taking a very narrow social definition that is compatible with capitalism, but they're still supporting the correct side of just struggles. They're not simply using that to divide the population. It is the bigotry, it is the sexism, it is the homophobia that is the source of the division. And Charlie Kirk was the biggest, loudest mouthpiece for that division. And for getting, we look what the purpose of Charlie Kirk was to get Americans to go along with the police killings, to get Americans to go along with the raids against immigrant workers, to go along with the sexist policies that keep women working at lower wages and then coming home and working a double shift. That was his position, to further attack our class, to reinforce bigotry against our class. Stuff we need to fight to get over and go against.
So again, I just disagree with. Why are you trying to let liberals off the hook? Because when I watch CNN, when I watch CNN, it seems obvious that they are engaged in an effort to make the left look ridiculous, and to totally confuse and change what the left actually stands for. And so, no, I totally see them as part of a culture war, trying to manipulate people's perceptions, trying to make the left look disgusting in the eyes of fucking normal people. And when I say normal people, I'm talking about Christian conservatives. You know what I'm saying? That's
the majority of people aren't Christian or conservative.
The job of the liberals is to make the left look disgusting, and they're good at it. And so this is a fucking culture war. It's to force everyone into this left versus fake right, or fake left versus fake right paradigm, where the real issues, where it's the working class against these fucking oligarchs that stage manage this culture war, are the problem. And that's what I see. And I mean, that's the reality. And so you're kind of easy on the liberals. And I don't know. That's what I think where our main disagreement is.
I think I dislike liberals more than you do. I don't hate liberals because they support progressive social policies. I dislike them because they're the more effective imperialists. They wash themselves in the veneer. Exactly. And the veneer, and they use that understanding to manipulate people to support imperialism. But I don't think the reaction to their veneer by the reactionaries is something that we should placate or somehow abide by. We don't have to. The only thing we have to do with people who are acceptable to reactionary rhetoric, who are being used as pawns against our class, is to get them involved in the class struggle and have them fight side by side with black workers and Mexican workers and gay workers, and have us unite and join the struggle and get over that bigotry through a struggle for the benefit of improving our material conditions. We don't have I'm not a liberal. What I'm saying is we don't have to recognize, even if it's a political reality, we don't have to placate to that political reality. We have to maneuver. But our weapon is class struggle organization. We don't have to do mass appeals to bigots. And it's better off to join with the people on the correct side of these issues, supporting unity and liberation, than it is to placate the reactionaries, which will only downplay our message. It will make our message less revolutionary. It's right-tailing opportunism. It's right-tailing opportunism for views. Maybe you can get on. Maybe you can be like the ACP and get views and shit. Go ahead.
You're knocking down a straw man, Dust. You're just wasting all of our time knocking down a straw man. But that's fine.
Okay.
You're not addressing any position I ever had.
Okay, that's good.
I don't think you're addressing any position that the American Communist Party has either.
Yeah, yes, that's exactly their position. There is the ACP's position is courting reactionaries. They called themselves MAGA fascists. They believe the maggots were the most revolutionary people in the United States.
I don't think they ever called themselves MAGA fascists.
They call themselves MAGA communists, and Haas, the chairman of this cult, said that the most reactionary portion of the population was the most revolutionary, simply because he was getting Patreon dollars, and simply because he was catering to the reactionary troll culture, which this killer came from.
Yeah, no, Dust. I know that those are your opinions, and I mean that's fine. I don't share those opinions. Do we want to get back on task? I mean, it's an interesting discussion. So I think I would like to just illustrate and highlight, our different perspectives, and I would like to try and understand where they differ. Is kind of, what I, envision us doing. But we can do whatever we want. So it's the Martyrdom of Charlie Kirk is the name of the today's episode. I'm not sure where we want to go with this. Carlo, where would you like to go with this?
Unfortunate that you called it martyrdom. I don't hear in Dust's comments his advocacy of any form for liberals or liberal mindedness. I didn't hear that at all. I don't know where that contention's coming from, but I do think
he said the liberals aren't fighting a culture war. He said liberals aren't fighting a culture war.
They're not.
That's confusing to me.
Because the word war is a metaphor. Listen. He's passed away now, but there was a poet who put a blog out called Poetry Wars. Can you think of anything more ludicrous than Poetry Wars? I mean, compared to real war?
I don't know. I mean, it's a concept. The
compared to real war.
A culture war is a concept, and it is a concept. It's a label for a concept, and it kind of describes this conservative versus liberal.
It's blown out of proportion.
I mean, that's just a term. It doesn't
because
mean
you have to have two sides for a war, and you don't have two sides here.
You have the Democrats and Republicans. You have Team Blue and Team Red.
Two sides.
Those aren't two sides.
They're the same coin. They run. It's corporate money on both sides.
It seems both Carlo and anyone's free to interject, Samurai. It seems like they both have this idea that there's only one side, and I don't understand how you're all looking at the same news pieces, because there are clearly two different factions. Like, even if we don't get into what the voters want, there's clearly two different factions
Listen, we just talked. I'm sorry, Ian, but we just talked about the corporate media and the way it liberal or whatever, neoliberal or fascist or right wing, they're all saying it's all the same product. All you have to do is look at the Ukraine coverage. Not one corporate media has figured out the chronology of Ukraine. When's the last time you heard them mention the Maidan coup of 2014, or you meant as one of our viewers mentioned, the burning of 40-some union members in Odessa in a building? When have they done that? Never. When do you hear they talk about even the U.S. involvement in the 2014 coup or any of that? Never. So they haven't even got the chronology of the Ukraine right for the American people. So they're propagating.
Well, there are. Well, I mean, that's not exactly true. There are. I mean, the mainstream, like Fox, Fox toes the line on the Ukraine thing, but there's definitely major right wing outlets that get the Ukraine story mostly correct. So there are two sides on this. I mean, Zero Hedge gets it right. Even the Gateway Pundit or whatever that site is called gets it right.
That's not.
I mean,
that's not.
What do you mean that's not it?
That's not big major corporate money.
It's not. It is not.
Yeah, it's not. Like I said, you're right. The mainstream outlets are all kind of in unison.
You can
throw me
wrong. I want to get you back in here because I feel bad about yelling at you to be quiet and that you were saying you were arguing against a straw man. But I think you were arguing against a straw man. It's frustrating, when you start going off and I'm like, okay, but you're not talking to us. Like, we're here. Talk to us in our positions. You know what I'm saying? But what are your thoughts? Any wisdom to share?
I think the main thing about understanding our domestic situation as far as imperialist politics is the war against the oppressed people internally, which includes the police killings, which includes the ICE rage, which includes mass incarceration. All of these things are reinforced by the bigotry and racism that Kirk put out there. And these are ongoing systems of violence and oppression. And I think the side of the international proletariat and proletarian revolution is for Black liberation, is for Aslan liberation, is for the absolutely dismantling of national oppression and the ideology of racism that holds that up. And I don't have to sugarcoat my words. I don't have to downplay what I'm saying to talk with people who are infected by reactionary bourgeois thought. The only thing I have to do is build from this contradiction and build among the most oppressed and exploited as a communist, the old industrial unions, the unions that organized the Eastern European immigrants and Chicanos and Black workers under the Communist Party. I think we should continue to do that. And our emphasis is not going to be the middle class, petty bourgeois reactionaries fully committed to Trump's fascism and maggot culture of reaction. I don't think it's going to be that. I think we need to organize from our class and go without. Our appeal is we can improve your conditions through organizing. That is our appeal. Not, oh, Trump may have been right about this or that. That's ridiculous. There's no reason to do that.
Okay, so
the issue here is.
Okay, go ahead.
Can I?
What?
I mean, the issue is that you keep saying class, but you're not speaking in terms of class. Like black nationalism is not a class. And if you push
basic
one
Leninism, read Harry Haywood. It's national oppression, which is
my point is that
the cause of the proletariat. This is basic Marxism Leninism.
Okay, but not everybody's going to agree. When you push one type of nationalism, other nationalists aren't going to agree with that. And
no one has to agree. I'm analyzing the material conditions and finding out the most intense contradictions that we can organize people around to build power. This isn't an argument for agreement. This is Leninism and vanguardism. We look to the height of the current struggles that will mobilize the most people to oppose the worst conditions.
Here's what I'd say. I would say that we are in a very near hopeless domestic situation, right? It seems like there's really no winning strategy that's going to successfully, overcome the entrenched capitalist class. So that's number one. But I think to give us the best chance, I think it's foolish to write off conservatives and say we're not going to outreach to conservatives. I think that lessens our chance. Like, we already don't have very
I'm
good
not
chance,
writing them off.
but to write off an entire demographic of petite bourgeoisie,
It's
or
unity
whatever.
on what basis? It's unity on what basis? Is the basis is the basic agreement on ideological issues or culture issues? No, the basis is class struggle. We, the proletariat, build power based on those contradictions, and then we offer better deals to the labor aristocracy and the petty bourgeois that the falling imperialists cannot offer. That is the appeal to them. We don't have to go along, and that's it.
I think there's an ideological war, right? I mean, there's a war over narratives and how to explain what's going on. And I think our explanation and our narrative has the most explanatory power. It makes the most sense because it's true. And so I really think it's just about, explaining and educating. And I think that we can explain and educate to libertarians and Christian conservatives, and get them to realize that this culture war that they're so invested in is bullshit, and it's keeping them from doing the necessary thing if we're ever going to have actual change in this country, which is a class war, a class struggle. And it is unifying along basic working class interests.
They are supporting the murder of us. The libertarians support the deaths.
So we can't
No. Listen, we can't outreach on the basis. We cannot outreach on the basis of libertarianism. If we have a worker who is misguided.
So
if we have a worker who's misguided,
I want to shut it down. You're not.
No, you can't sit there and say, I'm going to appeal to conservatives and libertarians. I'm going to appeal to workers regardless of their political bourgeois imposed political perspective. Yeah, and exactly. Libertarianism is a ideological obstacle that supports violence against us. Libertarians support the 60,000 Americans dying without health care. The conservatives support
outreach to liberals.
No, they claim to be, the liberals claim to be opposing it. They claim they're not doing it. They're not actually doing it because they're being, hoodwinked and supporting the people who are building the prisons. But there's no need to I see this trend on the left that, they killed Charlie Kirk because he was finally getting a portion of the right wing to oppose Israel. And my response is, I don't give a fuck if a portion of the right wing opposes Israel, because they will always be my enemy because they support the killing of black, brown, and poor people here. And I can never unite with them in any legitimate struggle until they stop supporting the violence against us.
But to get them to stop,
if a conservative or a right-wing person says, I agree with you, we need to stop murdering Palestinians, but he's against immigration, you won't even conditionally cooperate with him when it comes to stopping.
Maybe they show up at a Palestine rally that we organize. That's the extent of the unity. Do I want racists in my local study group, in my local union? If we can have them come into the union and support the struggle of class workers, that's good. But if they come in here and start supporting Trump or start racistly attacking immigrant workers and start saying policies of two-tier systems, of not having universal rights for fellow immigrant workers, then they need to be ran out the union. That is going to divide us and hurt our struggle. What are we going to unite with? Okay, they show up at a protest. Okay, fine. Am I going to go after them? No. Am I going to invite them am I going to go after them ideologically to have them come into the union? Hell no.
So again, to me, outreach is an outreach to inform them and educate them and get them to have different positions. That's the whole purpose of an outreach. And so when I hear you talk, it's like you're talking about something different than I'm talking about, right? Like, I mean,
think so.
why would they, if we're not changing their position, why would they even come into the union? So again, they're not
Because
gonna,
they have
they're not-
class interest. It's in their class interest to do so.
Yeah.
Okay, but for them to
So
realize
minimize their
that
reactionary
class-
tendencies and uplift their class interest. And
Yeah,
through
yeah.
that struggle becomes education.
But right,
Yeah.
and so that's a process that we have to enter into, and we can't say no, we're not going to enter into that process because they're racist.
We need
Yeah, I
to
wanna stop
understand that
genocide, but not with those people.
these-
I mean, that's
okay.
a silly approach.
These people they could be, their class interest leads them to be allies, but their ideological impression has and continues to get them into supporting and carrying out violence against other workers and oppressed people.
Yeah.
They're an active enemy. Like they're functioning as an enemy. They're supporting politicians and supporting policies. They're actively oppressing us, causing violence, killing us, taking away our rights, and lowering our wages.
Also applies to liberals. It's the same with liberals, and so I outreach to liberals.
No, they're
too.
being manipulated for good intentions. There's a difference between the
Conservatives.
overt bigoted and
For good
reactionaries.
intentions.
No, they're open.
There's a
Have you
difference.
talked
There's
to
a difference.
conservatives? Have you talked to
My family's conservative.
Okay, and how do they feel about immigrants? What do they think immigrants should be shot on the border? They agree with the
don't.
police killings. Like a lot. That's what Charlie Kirk did, and they're defending somebody who went along with that and supported
that's kind
that.
of a demonization.
Maybe this is
side of the culture war, and I don't know how what utility there is in that. I don't think there's any utility. I think it's destructive. I think it's destructive.
I'll tell you what the difference is here. Billy Bob, your position is Gilligan's Island. And Dustin's position is the practical work of unions. That's the worlds are apart. You guys will never agree. Because you come on, Billy Bob, every week and you talk about pie in the sky. You talk about St. Thomas Aquinas' utopia. You know, you don't have a. When have you been out? When have you been out organizing in a union? You're in a union now, aren't you?
I
Given
am.
Your job.
I am in a union. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good,
there you
good.
go. I've been in three different unions.
I mean, I don't
I've been
have
in
much
the
respect
Teamsters,
for the union.
the
The union's a
retail
sellout.
unions.
I mean,
I know what they're like. That's practical. That's what Dust is talking about. Is practice.
If I can add to
some-
Carlo.
Some trying to change.
I think I have a point of why Charlie Kirk was so dangerous, specifically in North Carolina. One of the biggest unions, most militant unions in the United States is the post office, and they have radical leadership within the leadership of that union, and the majority of workers are not, if not the majority, a very far overrepresentation is Black workers. So if you look at the overrepresentation of Black and brown workers in the most militant sectors of the labor movement, this is why Kirk's rhetoric is so dangerous and is so much of an attack against our struggle as a proletariat. He is actively denying the humanity of the people most active in the largest numbers, fighting for the benefit and improvement of all of us. I mean, there's no, you can't just have a kind of liberal battle of ideas. I think our outreach has to be rooted in the current class struggle as it currently exists.
yeah.
well.
No,
I have two.
again,
I have two. I know we.
Who do you think you're disagreeing with when you're saying Charlie Kirk was dangerous? Like,
Can
I
you
mean,
admit that the ideology and the positions held by conservatives is dangerous ideology that will get them to act as enemies and does get them to act as enemies against us? Can you admit
and that's
that?
true of liberals as well, Dust. That's my point. It's true of liberals. They're both sides are
Liberals
fighting
aren't
against
joining the
war.
Klan
It has
and
nothing
the-
to
the-
do with
okay.
a class struggle.
The
and it's class
liberals
struggle that
aren't.
needs to happen.
I mean, look in my town in the South. The liberals aren't vandalizing Black women's cars for showing up at the fair late at night. I don't see them doing that. The maggot youth are. Who are the majority of these? Who are the majority of these shooters? These mass shooters?
Yeah.
The majority of are gun-toting right wingers. The white
majority.
nationalism, Christian nationalism is the biggest terrorist threat in the United States.
Hey, but most conservatives aren't white nationalists, Dust.
They're going okay, but they're all showing up. They're all showing up to mourn a white nationalist fascist propagandist.
Okay, and liberals show
And they're
up to
all-
mourn war criminals all day long, Dust.
But
Like,
they're
I don't
using
know.
it. These are Klan rallies. The Kirk memorials are Klan rallies.
Our clan rally.
Are
I think
being
that's
used to justify lynchings.
Yeah.
Kirk's
Worse
rhetoric
than
and
Klan
bigotry, his bigotry and racism was being used to justify ongoing murders, ongoing violence.
It's
These
always
are Klan
a
rallies.
pleasure to hear your perspective.
Okay, can I say something, Billy Bob?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, it's a couple points here. So one, I mean, we're backtracking a little bit, but I don't think what's going on in Palestine, where they're sodomizing children with rifle barrels, murdering women and dancing in their underwear on TikTok. Tens of thousands of people killed every month. I don't think. I think that's worse than anything going on domestically. So it's difficult for me to take a movement seriously when they say, transgender access to bathrooms is more important than stopping an actual genocide or stopping a war in Ukraine that kills tens of thousands of people every month.
It's literally trumped up.
How is it trumped up? How is it trumped up?
Because it's introduced by the right wing, you moron. It's because the people who introduced it have a think tank in Dartmouth that comes up with this shit all the time. That's where political correctness came from. That's where all these right-wing cliche bullshit.
It's liberals in universities who are pushing
what Dustin
transgender athletes
is that the people are different. Liberals are different
allowed to
from those
participate in women's sports, right? That's liberals are pushing that, right?
Excuse me, Billy Bob, because they want to let children who want to have a free lunch have a free lunch. It's been done.
I don't think free lunches are as serious as Palestine either. That's not what I said.
Look, I think there's a few fallacies. The fallacy is that we could ever unite with the people advocating the murder, mass incarceration of another portion of the population to effectively oppose the imperialists. I do not think that is possible. I do not think that is going to happen. Also, just because it's more of a slow genocide doesn't mean it's that masses of people dying at the border, masses of people dying in prison, masses of people dying without health care, masses of people having lower education is not a slow genocide. It is national oppression, a slower genocide, and an internal colonial government. And with Palestine, because we have oppressed nations, we are oppressed workers.
Can I make one response then? So I mean, because this is the thing I keep seeing over and over again. Now let me just try and clarify and make clear what I'm saying. So we're never going to have people that want to lynch black people standing next to black people struggling in the class war. So that's not what I'm talking about, Dust, because that can never happen. And that's the straw man that you repeatedly knock down, and it's boorish. I'm saying we reach out to conservatives and we get them to open their eyes about reality. We get them to open their eyes about the class struggle, get them to see that the culture war that they're so invested in will get them nowhere, and it's predicated on a bunch of bullshit. So it's not about getting lynchers and Klans members to march arm in arm with blacks. That would be great if that happened, but guess what? That will only happen when those people are educated and not so ignorant. And so I advocate to educate them and reduce their ignorance. Like, that's what I'm saying. And every time you respond to that, you're saying like, I want to hold the hands of the Klans members and enable them or something. It's just preposterous. But anyway,
well,
that's what I want to say.
But yeah, so I mean, and I bring that one point up because I mean, I'll just say I don't. I mean, if there's another person who says, I agree on Palestine, like I don't even care what his other positions are. Like, at least on any dialogue on that issue, I don't care what his other positions are because, and there's no such thing as a slow genocide. A genocide is a genocide. There is nothing. Let me repeat: there is nothing happening in the USA. Or anywhere else in the world. Anywhere else in the world. Nothing. Absolutely fucking nothing happening that is bad. Anywhere even exponentially in the ballpark of what's happening in Palestine. And I bring up that point because it's just like when someone says, well, there's stuff that's happening in the USA that's worse or even, equal. No, there isn't. And it's difficult to take that person serious.
No one's saying it's worse. It's worse or equal to it. What we're saying is
two different subjects.
If we want to build an effective anti-war movement that has the ability, and not only anti-war, but I'm talking about independent infrastructure that has the ability to take international alliances and challenge the power of the imperialist on their own ground? Are we going to get that from ideological calls that, hey, we both seem to be against Israel? Or are we going to get that type of mobilization from let's stop the police killings, let's stop the fascist ICE raids, let's fight for health care? I think it's the latter that's going to do it. And when it comes to building organizations of power on the contradictions of the stuff we are going to organize for here, those people, the conservatives, the reactionaries, even ones that aren't as bad as the worst of them, aren't going to come out and support that type of mobilization. You're not going to organize an effective power to challenge the imperialists internally by making broad appeals to stop the genocide in Palestine. It's going to come from class organizing.
Let me ask you this point blank. Is stopping a genocide a good goal for its own sake, even if it does nothing for you?
Yes.
For your political aims. Okay.
And I think international proletarian organizing here is more effective at stopping the genocide than this kind of rage against the war machine, temporary alliances for movementism.
Well, if you dismantled the pro-Israel lobby, you would come a long way to dismantling.
I don't think
at least
that's
some
going to
of
happen.
the other.
I mean, these fascist propagandists, even if their own base is like, I don't know if I like that. The only reason why they have the prominence they do isn't primarily because they're representing their followers. It's because they receive that money.
That's right.
From Israel, and they will kill them, and they will get rid of them, and they will deplatform them. And the only way we can have people, true voices that are on our platforms, are from our organizations and built up from our organizations, is to have that organization based on the struggles for liberation and the struggle to improve conditions for our class.
Okay, because, well, one, I don't think that's true, because I've seen a lot of I think there's a larger right-wing element that's against Israel, and it's largely Israel's actions themselves. I mean, if you have a guy who says, because Israel boasted about killing Christians who shelter refugees. They boasted about it. They deliberately destroy Christian churches. If you have a right-wing guy who says, hey, why are we supporting a regime that kills our fellow Christian? Is that not the person? I feel like, I think my problem with you is that you will gladly hook up with a Muslim, but if a Christian does it, oh, he's a Nazi, he's a fascist, kill him. That's my issue. You're fine with one type of it seems like you're fine with everybody except us. Maybe that's my issue.
Who is the us? Who are you identifying with? Are you identifying with Christians? Are you identifying with white people? That's white nationalism. That's Christian nationalism. You understand? I'm identifying with the international proletariat. The international proletariat in America is who my loyalty is to. Who was your us? Who are you referring to in that us? Because I'm not a part of that.
Well, Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, it's like, do you just hate white people and Christians? Let me ask you, do you hate white people and Christians?
The best thing for the majority of people is socialist revolution through international proletarian organization, which means rejecting whiteness and rejecting us as a term of white. Us is not white. Our loyalty is not to whiteness. Our loyalty is not to the right-wing Judo-Christianity that usually actively supports Israel. Us is the international proletariat. Us is the working class. We need to get over that. That's how they manipulate us. Identifying with whiteness, identifying with Christians as an American concept is what enables them.
You're engaging with cultural conservatives, and that's what right now. I think Ian is a cultural conservative, and I think we're right to engage with him.
And look how easily he's manipulated. What did he say earlier? He said Kirk was an average conservative. That is completely absurd. He's a radical reactionary.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
All you have to do is listen to him.
Probably share a lot in common with typical Christians. And I've been to a lot of Christian churches.
He's in favor of the raids. I'm not like anybody who's in favor of the mass deportation of undocumented workers is attacking our class.
So
this isn't a culture war issue.
Immigration is a big.
Immigration is labor policy.
Winner for Trump.
Immigration is nothing more than labor policy.
The Democrats are losing. The liberals are losing on immigration. It's a huge political win for Trump, and that's why Trump is pushing it so hard. And that's why.
What do you mean we're losing? Trump is a reactionary. We're winning. I'm in a mixed family.
No,
my son's school has dual language classes.
For what he's doing on the border. Most people want a controlled border.
No, they don't. No, they don't. Trump is not the majority, and the maggots are not the majority. Okay, this is purely anecdotal. I am from a small town in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife is from Oaxaca. She was an undocumented immigrant, and I send my son to the same school I go to. And I went recently to their talent show, and that talent show was bilingual. And they have bilingual classes within that. And the majority of people in my community support all of our community members. It is the right-wing extremists who oppose this, who support this replacement ideology of white nationalism and Christian nationalism. Like they are the minority. Trumpism is not the majority. They are reacting to the social progress that the majority of us have gone through and support. They're manipulating a minority of the population to act like they're the most loud when they are the reactionary minority.
So I'm seeing that immigration, it's just polling. Like, that's what Trump polls.
I think you hate white people. It's hard to not think you don't hate white people. You're proud of it. Like, you fucking hate white people. It's like
really?
How do you, yeah.
Am I not? I love country music. I love rural culture. Like, I'm white, my family's white, my name, how, where do you get off that? I support multiculturalism. I support internationalism. I don't hate anybody. It's the other side that wants to stop the U.S. from changing demographics because they're racist against the other.
You're proud that the American education system has failed, that the American system has failed so catastrophically. We're
No,
like,
it's not
we're like
dual
Babel.
language
We're like
programs are
Babel. We
not
can't
fair.
even
No.
understand each other. You need translators at a children's show.
Really?
You need translators at children's show. Are you serious right now?
No,
So
who caused
this
that
is-
political reality? Imperialism caused that political reality.
That's right.
It's interesting.
Imperialism?
And
I
the
feel
community
that-
is coming together and embracing all of us and all of our needs and making education accessible and making public events accessible.
I mean,
I'm proud of my community, and none of you reactionary assholes are going to take that from me. And I will fight to defend my neighbors and their rights.
So
And
Ian,
imperialism
Ian,
did
you're
And some of you maybe have forgotten. Some of you seem to have forgotten. I am an immigrant. You know, when I came here, what did I do? I fucking learned the language. I went and I took their little test. I'm documented. I'm one of those documented immigrants. I learned. Like, why is it so hard to ask people?
Yes, and
You come to a
Russia
place,
stole
learn the language.
one half of their neighbor's territory, and Russia somehow impoverished their neighbor to cause that immigration? No, that is not the same
exactly.
whatsoever. That is not even comparable. The situation, that's liberalism. To take liberal ideals and appeal them to situations that are not, to have different material and political economic conditions isn't Marxism. It's liberalism.
So it's punishment for imperialism, is what you're saying.
I don't see it as a punishment.
Punishment.
I like
How is
eating
it not a
tacos
punishment?
and Carolina. I like a neighborhood where I can eat bomb ass tacos, El Salvadorian food, and North Carolina barbecue and soul food all in the same town. That is awesome.
You can find all those things in Moscow. You can find all those things in Moscow.
And isn't that a good thing? Isn't that a positive thing?
But you don't need to destroy the country to get different kinds
how
of
is it
food.
destroyed? How is having a talent show and Duolingo destroying the country? I don't think it's destroying the country whatsoever.
Really?
I do not think it's destroying the country.
You can't chew gum and top your head.
In Europe,
at the
most
same time?
people speak multiple language. The European Union functions largely as a single country to an extent, and they have multiple languages. In the United States, we can't have two languages with territory that was stolen, with 1/3 of this territory that was recently stolen from the neighboring country.
So it seems like, I mean, from my perspective, that Ian definitely is demonizing you by saying that you hate whiteness, because I mean, you've never said that. That's not your position. But I think you kind of do the same thing with conservatives, Dust. And that's what I see. Like you're overly demonizing of them. You're assuming they all want to lynch. If you're a Christian and you're white, you must want to lynch black people. And I think that's just ridiculous. I don't think Charlie Kirk wants to lynch black people either. And he certainly
yes, he did. Yes, he did. No, he supported the killing of Trayvon Martin. He supported the killing of George Floyd. He supported that. He supported the lynchings. Don't start and spread. Don't spread falsehoods. Don't spread falsehoods here.
Okay,
he was a fascist who supported lynching. Period. Okay. That's it.
No,
my sister supports
a lot of
Kirk.
Conservatives thought that Trayvon Martin was in the wrong, and it wasn't because he was black that they wanted him lynched.
Yes,
they don't want
yes, it was. Yes, it was. What are these racially coded? What are these thugs? Okay. That's racially coded. Okay. Those are racial stereotypes.
You're entitled to your opinion, and
those are racial stereotypes.
Your opinions are overly.
So they mask it. They mask the racism. It's still fucking racism, and it's still backing lynching. It's still backing lynching.
Yes, Dust is right. Billy Bob, what inroads have you made with your conservative buddies?
What?
How are your discussions with your?
I can throw that right back on you, Carlo. Like, where's the change that you've made? Like,
I've had many. I don't.
Wow.
I don't plan to make change.
Look around, Carlo.
I don't plan to deal with those fuckers at all. And when they come for people, if you didn't see that rally for Kirk as a replay of Nazi Germany in 1930s,
I don't know. 40s, I think you guys have a lot of cultural hatred.
I will tell you. I have had times And
You
Rosalie will
both have a
attest
lot
to
of
this,
cultural
where I
hatred,
had said,
which isn't
I
going to
had
help us in the
said,
class struggle.
I hate white people. During the Vietnam War, when I spent 6 years fighting my draft, trying to raise a fucking family, I got up every fucking morning and saw Lyndon Johnson and Henry Kissinger and Nixon, and I said, I hate white people. Because they were killing Asians by the millions and not blinking an eye at it. You know, fuck that. Don't tell me what I already know about conservatives and the people that were at that rally. They're pigs, and the people that are running it are pigs that know the people that went to the rally are ninnies, are idiots. They're fools. And you haven't had any inroads at all with them. You just sit in your thing with your little computer and argue with people, and that's supposed to get you somewhere. You're dumb, because they're killing, like Gus says, they're killing black people. They're killing Latino people. They're making people in my neighborhood afraid to go out. I'm in D.C. I'm just outside D.C., but they don't want to appear in public because they're frightened of what might happen.
I want to be on record that I love white people. I have absolutely nothing against white people. I am not a self-hating white. I do not
Well, if they
white
find out you're a communist,
I will tell ICE that, Billy Bob. I'll tell ICE that, so you're not
so now
sent to a camp.
now you're turning him into the fascist death squads. Fuck you, man. Look, I don't hate white people. I hate that masses of my community support the lynchings, kidnappings, incarceration, and oppression of the rest of my community. That's what I hate.
No, and I think
because they actively do.
Obviously, we have common ground on that. They have abhorrent opinions. They have a misunderstanding of reality, and we need to outreach to them and educate them. Like, that's what needs to happen. Period.
How's that working out?
How's that working out? I'm sorry, we got heated a little bit. We got heated a little bit. Now let's
educate them, not trying to reach out to them.
I look at your blog, Billy Bob. That's not working out too well.
Detrimental to the class struggle is my opinion. But you know, we all have our own opinions, and that's why we enjoy these mornings together. I guess it's morning for me, not for you guys. But I don't mind shutting up if somebody wants to have a last word.
Well, I'll say, look. So when I was actually angry enough with the U.S. system to actually leave, right? I mean, 4 years ago, I was angry enough. I was just done. I was just like, you know what? I don't want to live here anymore. I was that. I don't know if I would say I would hate America. I don't know. Maybe I would have. You know, if someone directly, no one really asked me that, but. I was angry enough to leave, and 4 years later, I'm a lot less angry with America than I was then, and that's part because I'm living among people who come to find out, despite all of the propaganda of the country, they don't hate America. They don't hate Americans. They don't hate the American system or American culture. And despite everything we've done to them, sending weapons to their enemies, killing them, supporting Chechens, supporting Ukrainians, so, you know, I mean, they have a lot of reasons to hate us, but they don't. So that kind of, and I also lived in Russia long enough to find out that Russia has its own problems. So they have a lot of problems that I don't envy. Right. We have a lot of problems. They have a lot of problems too. I'm like, well, you know, they have some problems I don't envy. So, and I came to really realize that the USA is a country worth preserving. And what taught me that is that there's other people. I mean, there's people outside the USA. It's not. I don't think it's even a majority. I mean, there are people who understandably feel that way, that the USA should be destroyed. There are people who feel that way. I don't blame them. I mean, there's Iraq. I mean, there's people. I'm sure there's people in Iraq or even Afghanistan or, you know, there's other places. But I think the majority don't even think that. They think American policy needs to change, but no one's saying, they're saying we need to dismantle this evil imperialist entity. No one's really, that's not It's not. I mean, it's not even a mainstream opinion outside the USA. So from the outside, I don't plan to come back. I don't think I could come back because it's just I've lived in a different place for too long. But I would like to see this worked out in a non-violent way. And I think even American culture. I mean, I know it's a very popular opinion to say there's no such thing as American culture. Well, I'll come to find out that's not true. I mean, there is, on the outside, there is an American culture. And the American culture is worth preserving. So it's not all bad. It's not all evil. I think maybe some people who feel that way in the USA needs to talk to some people from outside the USA because it's not a majority opinion. So that's my closing thought, trying to end on a good note. Now we got a little heated. I got a little heated. But
Let's hear from you, sir.
I'd like to respond. I do support the systematic dismantling of American imperialism that is a material social political enemy to the majority of the people who live in the United States. And I love the international proletarian culture in America. And Christian nationalists, white nationalists are actively carrying out attacks on the people I love in the place I love. And I don't see having bilingual functions as destruction of America. I see that as the international proletarian culture in America that I love. And I wish we had a political economic system that represented all peoples to their fullest expression within that. And that's why I'm a communist. And that's why I was an organizer. And that's why I take part of my time to give my bite-sized political analysis in my spare time to this day.
I just want to say, when I see a rally like that one for Kirk, when I see who the billionaires are, I hate white people. Yeah, I hate them. I hate them. And they've given me
Carlo, have you looked in the mirror?
reason to hate them. Yeah, I have looked in the mirror. And I hate myself sometimes because I haven't done enough. Although we spent ourselves into poverty doing several things. The television show where we got our own editing suite because we didn't want to be beholden to the institution's editing suite where they limit our time and they might censor us. All that stuff. I've done all that. And my conclusion now, yes, Ian, is white people constantly give me a reason to hate them. Constantly. And that rally was another reason to hate white people. Yes.
So
I hate the white race. I will say that.
Carlo,
Well,
you want to say something, Ian? We got time.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, I do think what both you and Dust were saying, I mean, there is a correctness to it because this very literal and lowest common denominator system of race theory is largely an American invention. That is true. I mean, even the Nazis copied it. I mean, it was that effective and compelling. Even Nazi Germany was getting lessons from American racism. It's very, I mean, because I was very surprised to find this out as an American leaving the USA. Most other people don't think in that terms. They think in terms of ethnicities, like, are you Irish? Are you Ethiopian? Are you Chinese? We think in terms, this black, white, brown is very literal, and it's American, and it's because we had a slavery system. It's because of a slavery system where the non-slaves, the people, were white, and the slaves were literally black. We didn't care where they came from, right? There's no like, oh, which African country? No one fucking cared what culture you were from. It was just you're a slave. And you are a property owner, or you're at the very least not a slave. That's what created this very literal system. And I think, unfortunately, it's distorted I think it distorted a lot of things for us. It's having this this way of viewing the world, and I think it also affects our ability to understand what's going on in other countries either, because most other people don't think like us. It's a very pervasive distortion of our ability to understand reality.
I would like to counter. I think Ian is doing a false equivalency. Racism and racism within the United States is particularly unique in that manner, but that systemic racism created material social conditions, and the people fighting against that systemic oppression are not racist. They're not pushing racism. They're the ones truly fighting against that racist reality. And so the racism in the United States created internal oppressed nations, the Black Belt, Aslan, the various indigenous people. That racism created a form of racially based national oppression. And supporting Black liberation and supporting Chicano liberation is not the same as the racist. I think that is that's a full false equivalency. And us as communists do need to look at our leaders like Harry Haywood, who took knowledge from the first large-scale socialist revolution, and they united the people by supporting national liberation of all the oppressed people under the Russian Tsar, and incorporating them in the socialist system. And if we want a socialist system, we're going to have a multinational system with the full human expression, national expression of all people in order to have a successful socialist revolution.
True.
That's why I support Black liberation and Aslan liberation and indigenous liberation.
Yeah, it's interesting to just compare and contrast perspectives. It's like there's culture issues and there's class issues, but they are interconnected to a great extent. And I definitely want to allow people to have many different perspectives. It's like a cylinder. Have you ever looked at a cylinder? You look at the cylinder from the front, it looks like a rectangle. You look at it from the side, it looks like a circle. And both people are right, but that's why it's things are complicated, and we have to be tolerant. We have to try and understand and hear out other people's views. And I think it's important. So I think we did a good job today. It was entertaining.
Well,
we're certainly all very passionate, but we have different opinions. And I think, we're not going to agree on everything, but I think it was a productive discussion. What do you think, Ian? Why are you downplaying?
well, no, I think my point is that it's true. There's no such thing as a white nation. There's no such thing as a white culture, because it's ridiculous. Obviously a Russian and a German and an Englishman are all, there's no such thing as a white nation, and it's an American invention. But there is an American nation, right? And they're not necessarily all one ethnicity, they're not necessarily all one color, but there is such a thing as an American nation. So that's there are American authors. There's Stark, there's Steinbeck, there's Mark Twain, there's Hemingway. We do have an American culture. We do have an American culture, an American nation. So it's a mistake.
It's a multinational culture. It's not one.
It's not a multinational culture. It's not a multinational
yes, it
culture.
is. It's a multinational culture.
It's not. No, it's not.
To me, that's national chauvinism.
American.
What you're advocating to me is national chauvinism and the further repression of oppressed people, and not allowing them the full extent of their national expression.
No one's saying that. That's a straw man. That is actually a straw man.
It's not a
no
straw
one's
man. It's
saying
what you're doing.
a minority nationalist.
You're not recognizing of people who face systemic oppression and built their own culture.
But I don't know why. Why do you so bitterly hate everything in your own country. I mean, it's I don't like you
I love
reflexively
country music. I love jazz music. I love American food. I've been all over this country and enjoyed and understood the food, the culture, the language, the art forms. I love it, and it's international. And I love all of the international components of it.
But you don't
To,
want
to
to
force American nation on oppressed people
there's
is
more to
national
culture
chauvinism.
than foods. There's more to culture than Taco Bell. I'm sorry.
The way the various acts, the regional accents, all of it.
You don't want to dig too deep into what people think, though. I'll tell you that. You know, when I met Rosalie, we went to a family reunion of my people in Cleveland, Ohio, and we were at a picnic, and one of my cousins, I won't mention his name, he's probably dead now. I haven't talked to these people in years. He said, "I'm bored. Why don't we get up and get in the cars and go beat up some niggers?" That's what he told right in front of her. And Rosalie didn't know these people. She was shocked to shit. And they left. And they got in their cars. And they went, I remember when I was at my draft board arguing with them that if they drafted me, I would come back and kill. And they taught me how to use a gun, which I didn't know how to use. I would come back and kill them, which I think got me my 1Y deferment. But I was sitting there waiting to see the guy there, and the secretary goes, "Why don't you want to fight for your country?" And I took a phrase from Muhammad Ali. I said, "What have the Vietnamese people ever done to me?" Whereas here, all you people want to do is get me killed. You dumb fucker. That's the kind
Carlo.
and they were all white people. All my cousins are white. And they're all racist. And they're all lapsed Catholic evangelical morons who wouldn't know their shit from Shinola. We go to my uncle's house, and we're there for like 5 minutes, and the chief of police from the little community outside of Parma comes up to his house. Now I know my fucking uncle called the cop on Rosalie and me. And you know the first thing the cop said to me after we talked for about a minute? He said, "Are you a communist? Are you a communist?" You know, and he was armed. And my uncle goes, "You know what these big boulders in my front yard are for? Therefore, when the niggers come out of Cleveland, I can hide behind them and shoot them." Get me out, white people, you dumb fuck.
Well, Carlo.
Yeah, Billy Bob,
Carlo.
we got your work.
I think I can give a material historical example to comment down of what I'm describing of how the national liberation of oppressed people benefits all workers. And it is I'm a worker in the U.S. South, and because of the more overt party, racist party, Republicans having rule in the South, we have less health care, less education, and black voters have little to no democratic rights, because even in the places where Democratic voters would be the majority, the black vote is so gerrymandered away that the entire state legislation, even though the majority of the people is against it, puts in these draconian austerity policies. And this has roots to slavery. And in the U.S. South, in the times of slavery, there was no universal education in the South. Poor white people lived not much better than slaves. They could freely go around. They had democratic rights, but they lived in absolute squalor and hunted wild boar and had various amounts of diseases. And we didn't get any health care, or poor whites didn't get any health care and education until the slave system was abolished. And that is when the first universal educations happened in the South, is when us collectively as an international body within the United States decided that slavery was not allowed to continue because it was holding us all back. And I think we need more international mobilization against things like mass incarceration, discrimination, the way they exploit immigrant workers with undocumented status and immigration raids.
Yeah.
I think if the international
So there's a
proletariat
lot
of
of things
workers
wrong
can come
with
together,
society,
we
but I
can
think
fight
the
for better
reason
conditions for
that
all of us.
society is messed up is because we have it's owned by billionaires, and so unless we address the fact that it's owned of, for, and by billionaires, we're not going to make any headway on any of those issues, at least in a forever kind of sense. Like, we might make temporary headway, but if we don't change who is running this system, they're just going to roll it back, right?
It's a struggle for workers' power.
Oh,
An
I need to
individual
stop you.
mass
I need to stop you.
incarceration
There was
problem
no
or something like that. Like, let's focus on the actual primary issue, which is the class war.
There's class struggle and
Yeah.
independent power in the time before socialist revolution. We're not going to go from nothing to a socialist revolution. We need independent dual power, and that independent dual power is made through fighting for the rights of immigrants and mass incarcerated people and improvement in the conditions of the entire working class. And the most exploited among us are holding back things for all of us, because that's how they divide us. And if we want to improve our conditions, we have to fight for the most exploited amongst us first and foremost within that coalition.
Okay, but we can't rule out all Christian conservatives just because they're white.
I'm not, but I need to get that Christian conservative to come out against police brutality, or he's useless to me.
No, we need to reach out to them, right?
I need them to come out and defend against immigrants being kidnapped, or they're useless to me. Because that's our main issue. That's the main way we're being attacked. They need to come out and support the dismantling of what's akin to slave labor through the mass incarceration system. And as long as Charlie Kirk is telling them that Trayvon Martin deserved to die because he's the racially charged word of a thug, those people are supporting the violence against our community and the violence against our class.
We got to educate them, buddy. We gotta reach out to them. I mean, definitely. Ian, are you okay?
Well, I'm confused because the Department of Education, I don't remember the exact year the Department of Education was founded. It was in the 20th century, and in 1910, I think it was 1910 or 1904.
The federal formal, I'm talking about universal education available even on the local level. No, there was the beginnings of universally available education in the North that was not present in the South. Now, just because it wasn't a federal mandated thing doesn't mean that's not the case.
Okay, but I mean, that is what universal means. I mean,
universal available education was available in much of the North long before it was the South, and it was available in the South after the abolition of slavery.
The religious groups had.
Okay, but I do want to ask, I mean, because Carlo mentioned this thing about his white racist relatives. I mean, my ex-girlfriend was Mexican and Pakistani, one half Pakistani, one half Mexican. And I'm sorry, Carlo, but the things they had to say about black people were not better than what your family was saying. So I think there's a couple mistakes happening. One, racism is not just a white people thing.
Yeah,
it's not. I'm sorry.
My point. But my experience has been with white people, and they're the ones that promulgate it. They have the power. They should shut the fuck up, or somebody should shut it up for them. That's the way I felt about during the Vietnam War, when I had to every fucking day get up and fight those bastards. And they're all white.
Yeah, I sympathize with Carlo, but
that's where
I would hope it's possible for all people to support all people, and I'm working towards that, even if that's not the current political reality. I hate what they do. And I recognize their capacity to change, even if it's unlikely.
I'm gonna take that as a affirmation that I am correct and you were wrong.
But I sympathize with what he's saying. I mean, I think John Brown hated the slave owners.
God, yes.
And if he wants to reject, like, I think there's hope for some kind of international system within the United States that respects all people. But if Carlos is a white person who fully supports the black nationalists, there's stuff like the Uhuru Solidarity movement where you can be a white person and support that. And honestly, he's much more of an ally than the white nationalist or people who even sympathize with the white nationalist.
And think about it. Miller and Trump want to strip all reference to John Brown and slavery at Harper's Ferry here in Maryland. Can you believe that? You want us stone cold racist. That's murderous racism.
And John Brown was a Christian, which is ironic.
Yes.
There's radical trends within Christianity we can borrow from, and we can appeal to these people. They're obviously these are contradictions. The Bible explicitly says to treat immigrants as equals. Explicitly, God's law, like that, like they're going against their own proclaimed teachings to support white nationalism, which they've infused and twisted into their religion.
I don't think white nationalism is as popular as you guys think. I think the vast majority of Christians are not white nationalists.
I don't think every person who wants a border is a white nationalist either. I think that's a straw man.
But but you know what? Let's just end on a good note. I already got just to concede that I was right, and I just want to leave it at that. No, seriously, I really appreciate the discussion and all three of you guys for just engaging and sharing your opinions, even though we're not going to agree on everything. I mean, I think we're an hour and 51 minutes in, so I really have to go and pee and eat and things like that. But we will reconvene soon.
All right.
It was good talking with everyone, even if it got heated. I do appreciate Ian's contribution specifically. He has a very unique story about being an American immigrant to Russia, and I'd be fascinated to hear more about it, regardless of other disagreements. And thank you for discussing with me.
Okay, it was our
good
pleasure.
to have you on.
Yeah.